Broadcasting from the commodity capital of the world, Zurich, Switzerland, this is Insider's Guide to Energy.
Insider's Guide to Energy, ETRM mini-series, brought to you by Fidectus, where post-trading matters, and Falls and independent management and consulting boutique, creating impacts for clients and markets.
Welcome to Insider's Guide to Energy, ETRM educational mini-series. Martin, how's it going this week?
I'm great. I'm fantastic, Chris. I'm very happy to talk to three colleagues from Contigo today.
I'm excited about this episode as well. Today, we're going to speak to Contigo. We have three folks representing Contigo. With us is Simon Stevens from Contigo. Simon, welcome to the program.
Hi, everyone. How you doing, Chris?
And Simon, just for our audience sake, what's your role at Contigo?
So I'm the CTO at Contigo Software, so I just look after the technology stack and the architecture of all our products.
That's all you do. Sounds easy. Fantastic.
Just that, yeah, nothing special.
And we have Karen Sanders. Karen, welcome to the program.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
I am doing well. And what is your role with Contigo?
So I'm Contigo's Chief Customer Officer, so I'm responsible for customer success in Contigo. I've been with Contigo for over 10 years now and have a lot of experience in sort of sales, consultancy on the product side. So
well, fantastic.
Welcome
to the program.
Today. Thanks.
And last but not least, we have Martin Thomas. Martin, welcome to the program.
Hi. So I'm the product manager at Contigo. I've just recently joined, actually, within the last 7 or 8 months, and I've come from the background of working in energy trading for 20 plus years, and a fantastic opportunity for me at Contigo to help shape them through the transition in the energy markets that I'm sure we're going to be talking about a bit more over the next hour or so.
Well, fantastic. Welcome to the three of you to the program. So the way this is going to work, our audience is probably aware of this by this point in the mini-series, is we're going to talk about what we see broadly in the industry first and get your opinions just as experts in the industry of what you think is happening. And then we'll probably drill down more and more into Contigo's specific solution and what you do or will do in the future to bring value to your customers. So let me start by telling you what I think. One of the things that I see happening, and the audience has heard me say this many times by this point, is that the ETRM space seems to be a crowded space. There seems to be a lot of vendors. There seems to be startups. There seems to be a lot of buzz and talk about ETRM. And my question to you is, what's happening in ETRM? Why is there so much activity there today?
So, I mean, to me, one of the main drivers for so much interest in ETRM is that the market's fundamentally changed over the past few years, that with the increasing percentage of generation produced by renewables and the kind of uncertainty about volumes that brings, it's actually driving a lot of market risk, compared to maybe what we were looking at certainly 10 years ago or even 2 or 3 years ago. And I think also, I guess there's some political things going on in the background, the gas from Russia, those kind of things, as well as regulations around carbon taxes and green certificates. So there's a lot of costs, there's a lot of different factors involved that are just driving more uncertainty, I guess, around market risk, and people are looking for solutions to help them manage that.
So help me understand when you say that there's uncertainty. So you gave a few course user examples there. Help me understand how that goes to an ETRM system. What's the connection between, okay, there's volatility taking place, there are changes taking place in the market. Why do I need to go back and revisit my ETRM system?
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe not even so much changes in the market, it's changes in people's positions that if they've entered into a PPA with a wind farm, then they don't really have tremendous confidence, I guess, in the accuracy of their forecasts day on day. So that means they have to be more active in the spot markets to make sure they balance. And they're looking for platforms that can actually meet those requirements, that can give them visibility of their positions and the ability to execute things as quickly as possible. And so that's what I think is driving it, and then behind that also there's risk management and other factors.
Yeah, high volatility on the one side coming from renewables. I totally agree on that. But you also mentioned platforms. I think that's also a good topic or a good point to talk about it, because I can see that technology is fundamentally changing when it comes to ETM systems. So, what is your view on that? Do you see the same change and the same development?
I guess, I've been involved in ETRM for more than 20 years, and most of that time I've actually worked as an IT consultant or a product manager, or certainly something in that space between business and IT anyway. And yeah, I can see over the piece that the drivers behind the technology and the technology itself has changed, but also I think that the technology will continue to evolve. There's I guess a potential view that ETRM, an ETRM system is fundamentally a system of record, basically a database, and there's around that there's some workflows around trade life cycle and other things, and there is a view that maybe over time ETRM systems will become not much more than a database, and all the business functions will be driven by apps which connect into this data lake of which ETRM data will be part. But we're still quite far away from that, and we still have the fundamental requirement for an ETRM system that it is that system of record, that positions and settlement happens perfectly from it. So I think that's kind of where we are, and moving into things that are a bit closer to real time. I guess you could argue that power's always been sort of real time, and that it happens instantly and things change very quickly. But certainly as we move into the world where maybe we're going to be in settlement periods of 2 minutes or 5 minutes, then it is going to be much more performance driven, and the ability to react quickly to things is going to be a real differentiation between success and failure for an energy trading company. So they're all the things that we are sort of building into our plans going forward.
Absolutely.
So sorry, quite a long answer to what was quite a short question.
All good. I think speed is definitely a future driving factor as well. But I think the whole solutions are changing, going away from or moving away from monolithic software components, ETM systems, to more service-based technologies.
Yeah.
So what's Contigo's answer towards that development?
So I mean, I'll take this one, Martin. I mean, in terms of like the technology that we build at Contigo, we've kind of had a transition over the past 5 years or so. We move away from a lot of on-premise solutions to a lot more customers wanting to use the cloud, obviously. We're kind of at a place now where our first iteration of a cloud platform was very similar to what that legacy on-premise solution looked like. It was just something we hosted instead. But what we're starting to move towards, perhaps over the next couple of years, like the next iteration of our cloud platform, will be much more microservices based. So much more of an interconnection of smaller modules that perhaps stand alone. The customer might not even need to interact with all of our modules. They'll be able to use small parts of it, and those will communicate with each other. So I think that's kind of a change that we're envisaging in, I guess, the next roadmap as we change the technology. But kind of related to that is how we make the scalability work in the cloud. So as Martin said, like the performance as the settlement period might get smaller and smaller, we're going to need to start adjusting how we scale those microservices to deal with that kind of change.
So Simon, you mentioned that you're headed in that direction. You're working there. So this is for your existing customers. What's the migration path? So how do you go from your current architecture and help them get to a microservice architecture down the road? How does that transition take place for a customer of yours today?
So this is kind of an ongoing thing. I mean, I think we'll probably never stop evolving our technology, right? But that transfer from the legacy platform that was on premise to cloud, we kept it very seamless for our customers. So we have our customers who were on premise with us before cloud was even a thing. We took the databases, we brought them onto our servers, and we have a seamless upgrade process from that to the current iteration of, kind of a monolithic but cloud hosted version of our products. And we'll do the same as we move forward. We've already started, I guess, pulling parts of the monolith out to make them so that we can host them in different ways, in more scalable ways. But that, for the customer, we can still upgrade them. We can still take them from that monolith, give them an upgrade for their instance of our software, and bring them straight into the new one. And they get the benefits, but because they were already cloud hosted, they don't really have to deal with the pain of that architecture transition. That's our pain, not their pain.
I guess also with the addition of Easy Energy and Exis into for nominations and scheduling, that in the future will be able to provide a sort of a seamless system which incorporates that as well into the ETRM. So as Simon was talking about, customers will have the choice on picking and choosing those, and maybe sort of seeing that more integrated as time goes forward, but in a more bespoke way to how they want to see the system. So we're looking at how we can provide that in a simpler way to support our customer base even further.
Yeah, and I guess just to add my view on top of that, I certainly see the industry evolving into much more as a service model with, and as Karen was saying, with Easy, we've started that process that we do provide more than just software, as part of the service there. And it's the features that I'm trying to build into the system is going to allow a bit more the possibility for us to offer services rather than just software, because I think as we move into that world where everything's much faster and much more dynamic, it's also going to be hard for customers to keep their IT teams up to speed. So I think they'll be looking for support from their IT company, and more than just providing software, but also running it and making sure the data's input in time and clean and everything happens as it should. So yeah.
Okay, great. So I understood that Contigo is clearly moving away from the current setup or the old setup to a microservice-based architecture, but a bit more explicitly, where do you stand in that process now? I mean, can now a client that goes for the Contigo ETRM solution use already services, or are you just in the phase of building up, developing those services, and in the future then moving over clients to a microservice architecture?
So it's definitely an in-progress thing, but we already have several parts of the existing platform that are implemented and operated as microservices. The customer wouldn't necessarily know, but that's how they function in the background. So several of our newest modules, so things like we have a new VAR module, we have an EPEX M7 module, on the architecture that we host those on, those operate as services that are disconnected from the bulk of the kind of the rest of the application, the older modules. So we use that because we can scale those better. But from a customer's point of view, it's all integrated within the same app. They can choose to use the VAR module, or they can choose not to use the VAR module, and it won't, apart from sorting out any configuration for it, it's not tightly coupled architecturally with the rest of the system.
Okay, understood.
I mean, the VAR module is actually kind of a really interesting one for us, because it was the first one that we developed with our new parent company, Energy One, kind of as a global development project. So a lot of the VAR Monte Carlo simulation work was done in Australia, and a lot of the trade valuation side of the work was done in the UK. And that model for development is one we want to use going forward. And that module in particular is now actually used by Contigo's products and by some of the Australian products as well.
Okay, so tell us a bit more about this partnership. It sounds like that's an integrated service already, right? So an ecosystem that you build together with a partner.
Yeah, so Contigo was obviously acquired by Energy One a few years ago. I think it might be 3 years now. Time flies. And yeah, so we kind of as we kind of joined together, it kind of became clear that we all had this need within the group for a new Monte Carlo simulation engine, both in Contigo and Energy One. So it just kind of evolved into this project that was global. We all needed parts of the system, and we all needed to integrate it with our own products at the time. So it's become, I guess, the test bed for the first way of how we can develop things globally, reuse those across all the different companies and products within the group. And it's been a good success. We've got customers for the VAR modules now in Australia and in Europe, and all sort of sharing the same code bases for implementation, and running on servers local to their geographic need.
Fantastic. So you mentioned already implementation or integration. I mean, how does this look like for the client if he chooses to go with Contigo solution? Do you provide integration consultancy to the client as well, or is it something that the client is up to do on its own?
So when it comes to integration with the customer's own systems, we've kind of have a long history of building like a set of APIs for extensibility and adaptability of Contigo's products. When we do a customer implementation, Carol can probably back me up on this, but we quite often do a lot of that work with them. We'll build some extensions to Entrader or Envoy using those APIs, get them up and running, help them kind of get started. But we really encourage them to do it as well. All those APIs that we expose are public. So we have a lot of customers who might then take what we started and go and extend and do some more with it. They may write some of their own additional modules that kind of fit in as well to integrate with their systems and then maintain them as they change. But we're very open to kind of working both ways, where we lead that or the customer can lead that.
And as well as that, we have our own sort of standard modules which integrate seamlessly. So a lot of it is just switching on a license key and doing some minimal configuration. I mean, one of the beauties of Entrader is that we have a lot of standing data within the system. So there isn't, in terms of commodities, it's just, and products, etc. It's really just the customer specific information, like the counterparties and agreements that need to be added to the system, and working with the clients on sort of workflow. But in terms of the integration with our standard modules, it's very quick and easy to do, particularly so if it's in our Contigo managed services, because that's all supported by our support teams here, and they're able to do that sort of very quickly for our customers and support them with that going forward.
So I hear that you have an API integration point. I hear you moving to a cloud architecture. So what's the problem statement that you're trying to solve going forward, right? So we talk about moving to modularity. We talked about the industry needing to be more adaptive renewables. What's the evolution? So obviously, like Martin, you joined the company for a reason. You think it's a great opportunity, I think you said in the opening. So what's the opportunity to change? What are you looking to transform into?
Yeah, I guess that's the crux of it, isn't it? So yeah, when we're going through the recruitment process and I was discussing my ideas on where energy trading was going to go and how an ETRM system needed to evolve, it was really reassuring that there was such good alignment between myself and all the people I spoke to at Contigo, but also that there was actually funding behind to actually make these things happen. So what I've been doing since I joined was plotting out a strategic roadmap for all the products to get to where we think they need to be. And I guess all those things we've been talking about is making sure we've got sufficient automation to deal with the speed of the markets, that we've got robust enough risk management, that we can meet all the clients' expectations, or at least the majority of them. I guess we're not really a fully blown risk management company, so but we certainly want to give our customers as good as we possibly can in that regard. And but also it's expanding the footprint to include things like ancillary services to make sure we can support PPAs that are 50 years long, to make sure we can really model batteries and inventory and those kind of things. So it's been looking at all the potential customers and what requirements they have and what their requirements are going to be like, and then just identifying the gaps and plotting the path there. So yeah, so it's not really a thing, there's a program of works, and a long-term view. We're not going to get there overnight, and our customers don't need us to get there overnight either. It's an evolution of the product set.
So where are you along the journey to renewables? So you bring up PPAs. So let's dive into renewables. And I know that Martin's going to jump in a second as soon as I go there. But let's focus a little bit of. I think there's trend there in the market, and we all agree to that. So
exactly.
Tell us where you are in the journey.
Yeah. So obviously when I joined Contigo, I had some familiarity with the products, but there's nothing to replace actually getting stuck in and trying to really figure out what actually there is and what works. And I guess the first thing that the two things that we identified straight off that we probably needed to focus on was certificates and PPAs. And so PPAs, obviously a lot of them are associated with renewables. I mean, probably 99% of them are, and a lot of them are fixed price, but many of them aren't, and some of them are extremely complicated as any structured contract I've ever seen, I guess. But also with certificates, InTrader, like most ETRM systems, if not all ETRM systems, doesn't really deal with certificates, or didn't deal with certificates particularly well, and manage inventory. And so that was one of the things really focused on was, what do customers actually want to do with certificates? How do they want to manage them? And what do we need to do to make it work? And, the first thing I've actually done as a product manager is implement some changes on how customers can apply certificates, how they can manage them, and make sure they work the way they need to.
So can you give us examples? So you painted a pretty broad brushstroke. Maybe more specific.
Yeah. So I guess specifically, if you're certificates are fungible fundamentally, and they are physical certificates. They have an ID, they have a number, they have a quantity. They get them delivered on a particular day. You pay for them on another day, and they last until you get rid of them. But in an ETRM system, traditionally, it's modeled more like a forward, that you get the delivery is more over a period, and once the trade's been done and is paid for, then it's gone out the system. Whereas in reality, it's not. It's actually just started its life within the company, I guess. So it's trying to make sure we can capture the fact that the certificates are actually got a purpose, and the purpose really is to hedge. For most people, it's to hedge some requirements, some regulatory obligation. So if it's a carbon certificate, it's to offset carbon production. If it's a green certificate, it's reward for being a good generator and getting a bit extra revenue. But also there's a different type of certificate, I guess. In the UK, we've got ROCs, renewable obligation certificates, and they they have a completely different life cycle from other certificates. And I know also in Germany there's a new carbon tax coming out, which is quite aligned with ROCs, I think, in a lot of ways. And so it's making sure that all the different characteristics of the certificates are actually captured, but fundamentally that we treat them as an inventory, that they go into some kind of stock and they are surrendered, either sold or surrendered at some point in the future. So it was one of those things that I think the solution actually turned out to be quite neat. And I actually don't want to talk too much about precisely what we've done at this moment in time, because but yeah, it's actually opened up a whole world of new possibilities for us, and also allowed us to actually do a much better job on things like gas storage and also batteries going forward.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So I understood that it's that you have invested quite some effort already in to capture more structured, more complex structures like PPAs or ROCs or GOs probably as well. But what I can see customers struggling sometimes all over again is when there is a new PPA attribute that cannot be captured yet. I mean, you mentioned it, they are completely or very, very complex and it always happens again. So how flexible is Contigo's solution that
it's actually the core functionality in Entrader is actually incredibly flexible, and it is really quite easy to construct new formulas that you can use to manage prices and volumes. But also, I guess the ace in our pack is that we also have this thing called Inflow, which is basically a workflow tool which can be used to model the most complex PPAs. So between Entrader, where I mean, in my mind, I'm seeing Entrader, we're going to manage the simpler PPAs, I guess, or at least in early days, and the more complex ones we've done in energy flow. And over time, it will increase the functionality in Entrader to do most of what we currently do in Inflow. For example, I guess this is a kind of evolving subject, because I think almost every time we speak to a customer about PPAs, there seems to be some slightly different factor. But a lot of PPAs have got fixings, and that's something that we can do quite a good job with in Entrader out the box. But I guess where systems like Entrader and other ETRM struggle is where the optionality is on both sides. So on a more complex PPA, the buyer and seller both have options and rights, and the best one in the world, it's quite hard to model those in a trading system. So that's where energy flow comes in, and we can model the most complex workflows. And what I'm envisaging in the future is that we would actually extend the basic trade lifecycle workflow of Entrader with energy flow. So basically, we'd configure custom workflows in energy flow and connect the Entrader PPA up to those things, so we can manage any complex workflow at all. And so the sort of first wave, the first new version of our software that was going to have some additional features for PPAs is going to come in the next version, and every release that we've got coming up over the next 18 months or so is going to evolve the PPA solution till we get to that endpoint where we've got the full integration between energy flow and Entrader. And I really feel that will be a compelling and unique proposition in the market.
Okay, sounds great. I mean, one very distinct problem in all that deal life cycle workflow, from my point of view, is the daily valuation and the risk management of the PPAs. And I mean, I guess it's quite obvious, since the deals are very complex. There is no easy pricing or valuation formula or a risk model. So how does Contigo overcome that topic? Is there a Contigo internal pricing engine for PPAs or valuation engine and a risk management tool, and or can the client also develop and integrate own risk management and pricing engines?
I would say yes to both of those. That
Okay.
that we do actually have a strong capability within Entrader to value PPAs. To be honest, if we can capture it, we can value it. I don't see any challenge there at all. I guess the kind of things that we're planning to extend functionality to do are more to do with the long-term valuation, and maybe the particular hedging strategies or the particular volume scenarios, like P90, P70, P50, or whatever the generators want to use, that we'd feed them into our VAR models. So all those things are coming, but we can actually do a pretty good job just now. That's not one of the things that keeps me up at night about PPAs. I think from our point of view, it's the challenges that I want to address in Trader are being able to capture a 50-year PPA and run it for the full life, and to be able to value it and to not have any impact on performance whatsoever. So,
Okay.
because at the moment it would be an awful lot of data that didn't really need to be processed that we'd be doing. So it's just trying to take a slightly different view on what a PPA is, or what a long-term contract is, and how you want to treat the different parts of it through its life.
So I understand what you're thinking, your thought processes on PPA. Earlier in the conversation, one of the things I noted you said when I asked about renewables, where we're going renewables, I think, or you mentioned it in the beginning about performance.
Yeah.
And you said there's some performance requirements to come. So tell me a little bit about the performance that's required to meet the renewable market and the next generation market coming up.
Yeah, I guess when an introduction was probably primarily thinking about the requirement to actually be able to make decisions really quickly as the markets become much closer to real time. Our colleagues in Australia are already facing the reality that the market there is going to be going down to 5 minutes. So if you like, the lessons that they're going to learn, the tools that they're developing to deal with that, we'll be able to leverage. So it's back in the day, markets were UK was 30 minutes, and that seemed like quite a small period to work in, and moving into a 5-minute window. There's no way that it's going to be possible to manually do anything. It's going to have to be automatic, and so it's been able to make sure we do the right things, the best things, and our clients don't have to do anything really. They just have to buy the software and install it, and their business runs. That's kind of where we want to get. But obviously, to do that, the performance has to be good. So I think we're not encountering any performance challenges at the moment, but it's more anticipating that future requirement where we're going to have to deal with a 50-year PPA and a 10,000 spot trades at the same time, and make sure we don't have any performance challenges. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
So one of the challenges of my job is I've got to work out how we're going to change the architecture to support the kind of things that Martin wants to do with the product over the next few years, and where he sees the market going. So when we talk about maybe having to move to smaller settlement periods in the future, although we're not there yet, I'm already starting to think about how we're going to handle that extra increase in data. How are we going to change the architecture to where it was working with periods at 30 minutes to now working with 6 times more data for every single just a trade or valuation we do. So we're starting now to do some work in the background around how we can scale the use of our data, spread it out across more servers, move a lot of the processing and the heavy lifting away from database transactions, and more to sort of CPU-driven load, so that we can scale it easier when the time comes that we need to do those types of things.
Okay, great. I think performance is one side of the whole story, but what I can see is that the whole architecture must move towards event-driven architecture, so that you can really real-time update your position view when there's a new trade coming in. Or to be very explicit, have a real-time position management tool. I think this is something that traders need. They need to understand, especially when settlement periods get closer, what the position is. So does Contigo offer a real-time position module?
So we do have like a real-time position module called we call it the dynamic position screen, and that's that is exactly what you're talking about there. It's like an event-driven update of dynamic position. But in addition to that, something we've had for a long time now is an event-driven API as well. So that is quite a powerful tool to allow kind of us and all customers to build things that hook into events with the system. So we can be responsive like that in the same way.
Okay, cool. Hooking in a bit of a different topic probably, but you mentioned at the beginning you have an Apex M7 access now. Tell us a bit more about it. What's the strategy or the background behind it? What can customers do with it?
Do you want me to answer that one, Simon? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
It was Simon's baby. I thought he might jump in a bit. Yeah.
Sorry. So from my point of view, Apex M7, it was a bit of my baby because it was one of the test beds for our new sort of internal technology platform. It was the first thing we built on .NET Core, and it's the first thing we built in that kind of microservices pattern. But from a customer point of view, I think go for it, Martin. You can explain how a customer can use it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess customers maybe had limited choices about how they could actually access that data, and maybe they didn't want to pay a big license fee for a big product which did much more than what they actually needed. So the solution here is more about trying to come up with something which is pitched at the right level for customers who may be only trading spot, not trading too much in the way of futures or forwards, and just that gives them access to the markets they want, and allowing the platform for automation. So that was really the driver for it. So it's got that connection to allow data to come in and out, and on the back of that also there's usually some functionality around the allocation. So the trades come back from Apex, they're fairly anonymous. There's not much data there, so there's a process to enrich that with the which book is it going to go to, which trader did it, what was the business purpose, was it associated with a particular asset, and so there's logic in the system also to allow the trades to be allocated into the right books so that the right valuation and positions can be done.
Okay, so great.
I was just going to say one of the things around it is, as well as it's listening to our customer base as well. So in terms of how this came about was just as Martin was saying, that there was another route to getting trades into EndTrader that was more expensive and a lot more functionality than some of our customers actually needed. So we listened to what they said and we built that interface to be able to support that. We've just recently had a virtual customer forum event in the last week, which has gone really well, where we invited lots of our existing clients to come and listen to Martin about his sort of product roadmap, Simon in terms of the technical side, and to give some flavour to some of the additional changes that we've made, and to get some feedback from them as well. So it's a sort of good opportunity to spend time with our customers.
So it sounds a bit to me like maybe Contigo has even more plans behind that Apex M7 access. So Like, could it be the case that you're thinking of building let's say, an algo strategy platform or framework where customers can develop their own strategies that they
Yeah.
like run automated, and having maybe back testing as well, data analytics, all you need. So is that one of your strategy?
It is, but also there we'll be working hand in hand with another one of our sister companies, Easy, because they already have the basics in place for algo trading in spot markets. You know,
Mhm.
they can do that already. You know, so but what they're planning to do is, as you say, expand the functionality in terms of logic, and I think also in terms of end trader, we'd also be looking to add some logic on our side so that the data we send them is optimized as much as possible to make their life easier in terms of the execution. So it is that's definitely part of the plan, and you know, and the it's already there. If you know what I mean, we are able to execute trades on these platforms from InTrader via Easy, but it's something that we see growing a lot more, and yeah, and also, you know, there will be out of the box strategies for algo that Easy will be developing, and we'll probably be working with our customers to guide them. But there'll also be definitely the possibility to plug in your own, because ultimately that's going to be the differentiation between customers, isn't it? You know, how quick, how, you know, getting the best deal. There's always somebody on the wrong end of a deal, you know, and you don't want your customers to be that person if you can avoid it.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is you could do trading today and you could do that in the past, no problem, but you're doubling down on your algo strategy or enabling your customers to have better algo performance.
Yeah.
So
To be honest, there's not a big clamour for it right now. It's not like customers saying, you know, I really want to automate this. It's, you know, but there is definitely the conversations you have that it's something that they want to do in the future that they look to expand on. But it's much more a case just now of, as you know, with the XM7, making sure we've got the connections and that's what they want, and then it's making sure that we get the automation on the back end so the trades come into the right place. And then when you're in that place, then you can start thinking about, well, you know, how do we do this better? So it's you know, so it's a bit of a journey, and there isn't something that I say that there's a desperate clamour for at the moment, but it's definitely coming.
okay,
I don't know if you think the same, Karen.
Yes, no, I think definitely so.
Yeah.
so Karen, I have a question for you.
Hmm.
So how do you support your customers today? So what's the support experience? So let's go through the customer journey. I've got your system up and running, and how do you, you know, we talked about some algo or something like that, and maybe I need some support. Maybe I want to make sure to validate what I'm trying to do with the system. What's your support model like?
So throughout the implementation, we actually involve our support team. So they're sort of very much involved in supporting the customer. So there's a good handoff between the business analyst, the sort of implementation consultant, and the support team with the customer. When after handover into support, it then falls to my customer success team, so formerly sort of known more as sort of account management, and we have sort of regular updates with customers, finding out sort of what's new in their business, how we can help support them better with the functionality they already have, or potentially what some up and coming modules might do to help support them in their future business. We do a lot more on this sort of enhancement side for customers. So it might be they might come to us with some additional functionality they require. It might not be modules that we're implementing. It might be some bespoke development that we need to do for them to support a particular business need. And we'll work with my teams and work with the technology teams to make that happen. Most of the teams are based here in Solihull. We're all very close knit team. All of the implementations are done by my BAs. So they know the product inside out and can support customers well going forward as on the customer success side as well.
Well, cool. Appreciate finding out about your support model. One other thing that comes to mind on the business side is, do you have a sweet spot? Is there a commodity trader or a particular customer size or specialty that you really gravitate towards? Is there a target customer that, hey, if I'm one of these listening to this podcast, I should be calling Contigo right now? I mean, who is it that you target?
So I think in terms of targeting, it is actually a vast range of customers. I'd say sort of we've got sort of the bigger tier one customers right down to sort of the sort of real startups. We can support each of those in different ways and use the same system to be able to do that. So we've got sort of generators, retail customers, both in the UK and in Europe. I mean, obviously, predominantly we were in the UK space, but we've moved and now we've got a real good sort of foothold into Europe and a number of jurisdictions. So I think there's a lot that we can bring to a lot of different customers. So it's quite hard to say we sort of cater more for a particular set.
Well, maybe I should rephrase this, and we're getting towards the top of the time here before we move into the next round.
Mhm.
Is I guess, maybe not, your particular customer that you're targeting. Oh, shoot, now I lost my train of thought. Excuse me. Okay, we're gonna have to cut that, Basti. Oh, I don't even know where I was going. I apologize. It threw me for a loop. Okay. Wow. So it was on the commercial side. I was trying to ask you something on that. I'm sorry. Don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That never happened.
I've managed to puzzle.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah, after the interview, I'm like, damn, I wanted to know.
Yeah.
What the customer base was like.
I mean,
So,
I mean, just talking about our customer base in general, I think we're not the largest ETRM vendors, but we have the ability to support big and small customers. I think the beauty of it is that we get a lot of repeat referrals. So in terms of customers have joined one energy company and then they move somewhere else and then they recommend us to their sort of new employer. So I think that's really good that we get a lot of referrals from our existing client base.
Yeah, and I think when we've been putting together the roadmap, we haven't been thinking, we really want this sector above everyone else. It's really saying, these are all the players in the market. What are all the requirements? And we're trying to build them all so we've got broad appeal. I think it's, I don't think at this stage of the evolution of the market that it makes sense to pick a winner or a segment that's going to be successful or really good for us. I think we're just making sure that we meet all the requirements because basically the deal, there's two sides in every deal and, there's two different business models on every deal. So chances are we're going to appeal to at least one of them, hopefully, that. So it's not really been a case of segmenting the customers down or the market down into say, this is what we want to do. It's much saying these are all our customers. What do they need us to do for them? And so it's maybe quite an ambitious vision, but it seemed to be the only right thing. And I was quite strong about making sure that I had something for everybody. That although looking forward, power is going to be the big commodity for us probably, but there's still requirement. There's still gas is still going to be around for a while. So and coal, so we need to make sure that customers that trade those things that we do still make their life better. So,
all right. I think. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just think as well in the current climate with, you started off the segment with talking about sort of ETRM vendors and where, it was a bit crowded at the moment. Obviously, I've been with Contigo for sort of, I think, 13, 14 years now. So I've seen an evolution of a lot of different parties. I guess Martin has as well. I'd say the fact that we've got such a broad reach of customers means that we're very stable in where we are, in terms of what's happening in the markets. We're still, making moves to sort of make changes and things that are going to support our customer base as best as we can. So I think we're in a really strong, good position at the moment.
Well, fantastic. So I think we're at the point of the show where we've covered your view, as you nicely recapped, of where we think the market is. We've heard a bit about your strategy and a bit about your solution. I want to switch gears now and go into what we call the speed round. This is our final segment of this show. We basically have 10 questions that Martin and I will rotate back and forth and ask you. These are short answers, so just answer how you see fit. I'm going to kick off with the first one, and it will give you a clue of how the session will go. So, will the number of vendors for ETRM solutions shrink or expand in the future? What is your opinion?
I personally think shrink in the short term, perhaps, but I think it always lends for opportunities. So, Martin, I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would agree. Shrink. I think it's quite hard to develop a full-blown ETRM system or something that manages the full life cycle of things like PPAs. So it's quite a difficult market to come into, I think. And it's not going to get any easier. But not to say there might be some, a lot of vendors of single-purpose apps, if that's the way we go.
Okay. So second question, how many deals per minute must a modern ETRM system today be capable to import?
Get your calculator out, Martin.
Yeah, I know.
Who want to take that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big number. I would have, yeah.
Is it more like 10,000 or 10,000? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, we have we have had requests from customers that are looking for 2,000 a day, and they were quite small. So I imagine a bigger player would probably be looking for something like potentially 10,000 deals. And the smaller the settlement period gets, the bigger that number is going to get. But they will. I'd expect them to be simple deals. So they're just going to be a volume and a price and a period, and not much else.
Okay.
Fair enough. So what commodity types and energy types are you offering, and which ones do you consider your greatest strengths?
So, well, we do all. There's no commodity that we don't do or can't do. There's, I guess, but to me, the greatest strengths is power. I think what I've seen since I've joined in Contigo and Entrader is better than anything else I've ever seen for power. I don't know. Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I sort of agree on that. With predominantly on this sort of UK and European side, but we can, the way that it's been configured, and I guess this is what we're doing sort of going forward, is the granularity of the commodities has always been a bit of an issue in some systems, but it's something that was built with that in mind, so that we can actually swap in that very quickly. So if there are changes that we can move to more 15 minutes, 5-minute markets, and that's something that we're going to continue to do with our new technology, is make sure that we have that baked in as well.
Okay, fantastic. Next question. Do you offer a real-time position management module? And in case so, how many trades can you process with it? So is it real-time?
Do you want to answer that, Simon? I mean, to me, it's pretty quick.
Well,
but whether it's real-time or not.
we do dynamic position screen. It is real-time. And how many trades? It depends how big they are. It can handle a decent requirement of like your short-term sort of week ahead kind of trading without any difficulty, really.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess there's a refresh cycle to it as well. So to a certain extent, the user's got some control over how quickly it refreshes.
Cool. All right. So do you have an automated workflow for straight-through processing?
So yeah, we do straight-through processing from a number of exchanges like ICE, EPEX, Nord Pool, and a few others as well. That is just 100% automated.
Okay, cool. Can your ETM system price Asian options?
I personally, I've got no experience of trying to capture an Asian option in the system, and my gut feeling is probably not out of the box, but
it's an interesting one because it crops up every so often in sort of RFI type of questions, but actually when you get to the sort of the crux of it, it's sort of on a wish list rather than a necessity. So in terms of valuing, I'm not sure that it's necessarily in the group of customers that we sort of service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or certainly within the power and gas markets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. Are you offering a full integration and implementation service for your ETRM solution?
Yes, we've done that from day one. So my background is actually as a BA, and I did the first implementation with Contigo, and we do involve some integration partners, particularly on the client side, if it's sort of something that they wish to sort of include in the implementation. But we can service it all from our team here, who are sort of very knowledgeable of Eventdriven and the markets and the customer implementations they've done already.
Okay, great. So what is the biggest threat for third-party ETM vendors, if there is a threat from your point of view?
The threat to us or the threat to them? Sorry.
The biggest threat for third-party ETM vendors.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question. Sorry.
Is there something that a vendor should be afraid of, like changing technology, or maybe a competitive environment that is hard to manage? What's your view on that?
Yeah.
I was going to say that I guess the threat at the moment is around sort of what's happening in the UK markets with the supply market and the potential loss of customers. So as I said before, we're in a very fortunate position that we have a good spread of customers across the UK and Europe as well, but we also have a very strong backing from our parent company, Energy One. So I think that sort of protects us a little bit from what's happening at the moment within the markets. As I said, we've been quite fortunate that we've got a lot of customers that are still in there and still in the game. So it's good at the moment.
Cool.
Okay. So
how does your licensing model look today, and do you anticipate it changing in the future?
So in terms of our licensing model, it's actually subscription based, but we work with clients in terms of what that might look like if there's something different that's required, sort of on a commercial side. In terms of changing in the future, I think that subscription models are sort of here to stay, really. So I don't see an awful lot of change in that respect.
Okay, then last question. Are you offering an API, and what is the technology behind it? I guess, Thomas, that's
one for Simon.
Yeah, definitely one for me.
Simon,
we have loads of APIs, almost more than you could possibly ever want. So just to run through them really quickly. So we have a SOAP API that is a kind of command and control type API. So you can use that to automate pretty much any part of Entrader and extract data. We have a REST API, which is actually it's actually REST, but then standardized OData on top of that. And that's like a data access and query API. So particularly if you're hosted with us in the cloud, you can use that for querying the data, extracting the data, and kind of it connects with Power BI and Excel for some data manipulation. And then we've got a .NET API, which is the event-driven API that I mentioned earlier. So that's the one you would use if you wanted to build integrations kind of driven from NTrader, perhaps automate some part of the workflow from within the system, or link out to some third-party or external interface. So yes, three major APIs for three different things you might want to do with them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
You can tell that Simon really likes our APIs.
Yeah,
I like APIs. Yeah, that's my favourite subject.
Never enough. Yeah.
He's cut it short for today.
Well, fantastic. So we've gotten through the content that we wanted to get through. I'd like to give you an opportunity to kind of bring it all together and wrap up here. So if one of you want to just kind of let our audience know, kind of bring the pieces together, why they should be considering Contigo if they should be, and what differentiates you going in the future. So maybe a minute or two, just a short wrap up of what we've talked about today would be entitled, and then I'll close the show up.
Do you want to do that, Karen?
Okay. So in terms of Contigo, I know I've probably.
Yeah.
So you need a minute to think about this one.
I need to think about it.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get you to do it, because I need to think about it too.
We can cut this bit, right?
Yeah, I think we need to cut this bit.
All right, do you want to start again? Just start with the answer. I mean, just your elevator pitch or whatever you want to leave the show with, right? It's your chance to tell the show, right? What you want to think.
Do you want me to have a go?
Yeah,
Karen?
go on, Martin, you have a go.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be kind. I'm not trying to stump you. I'm trying to be nice by offering that.
Yeah, to me, a customer should consider joining us as a supplier, because we're committed to that journey that they're committed to themselves. You know, we're actually got plans in place. We've got investment committed to make sure the product evolves with their requirements. So if they do join us, they can be sure that we'll still be, you know, our solution will be fit for purpose with whatever comes over the next few years. And, you know, we will be adding value with them on every stage of the journey.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you, Simon, Karen, Martin. Thank you for joining the ETRM mini-series. We've appreciated you as a guest. Thank you for being on.
You're welcome. Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Thank you, everyone.
And for our audience, you've just listened to one more episode in the ETRM mini-series. Make sure you listen to them all, compare and contrast, find out what is taking place in the ETRM space today. If you're enjoying the series, make sure to share it with your colleagues. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us. And there is a YouTube channel where you'll get to find the information as well. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing you on the next of the series.